if I were to look at somebody else's feed who's doing very similar things to me, I wouldn't feel that way. I would think, oh, amazing, like she's written a book, doesn't it look fab? Or like, oh, she's got a new pattern out, like I'm gonna go check it out.
Hello and welcome to the Yarn Over podcast. I am your host, Sarah-Jayne, and in this episode we're going to be talking to Lindsey from Lottie and Albert. I've been friends with Lindsey on Instagram for years, and we've had so many conversations in the DMs, and today we're talking about all things collaboration over competition. In this episode we're going to dive in deep to the crochet world, talk all about community, and also go a little bit off tangent as well. So let's tune in to this week's episode.
Have you heard the news? My How to Crochet Handy Reference Guide has had a revamp. This 26-page ebook with exclusive video instructions is perfect for beginners or those who love to have all the information at their fingertips. Get yours now at www.bellacococrochet.com/ebook.
Hi Lindsey, welcome to the Yarn Over podcast. I am so excited to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. It's awesome to talk to you. I feel like in person, but on camera.
Yes, exactly. We've spoken a lot via DMs and voice notes and things, but never an actual conversation where we where we're back and forth. Yeah. For those people who are tuning in and don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I am Lindsey. I'm the face behind Lottie and Albert. I am a crochet designer and an author, and I'm based in the Cotswolds.
Oh, lovely. I've never been to the Cotswolds, but it looks beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
It's a good thing to say. It feels like a nice place to be.
Yeah, I'll have to come and visit one time.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us about how you got into crochet and when you got into crochet?
Yeah, I first got into crochet, I guess about, 8 years ago. So when my daughter was first born, a group of sort of local friends got together and they said, let's start a craft night and let's try crochet. So none of us had done crochet. Funnily enough, I've pretty much done every other craft going. So my mum owned a fabric shop when I was growing up. I did so many different crafts with me. I feel like the only one we never actually did was crochet. So that was kind of how it started. We would get together one night like each week, and it was really nice actually because it's that age when you've got really young kids, and that was like an easy and nice way to get together with friends that wasn't, we could just do it at each other's houses. And so that's how it started. And we used YouTube videos, including yours, to teach us, because I think the benefit of video-based stuff is you can just pause it and rewind it.
Yeah.
And especially, I always think with crochet and knitting, but it's the beginning that's almost the hardest, and there's so many things to kind of get to terms with and grapple with. So being able to just pause and rewind in your own home and with a group of other people learning too, really, that was what got us into it, really. And then I think, so that's how it started. But then I really got into it probably when my second child was born and I was on maternity leave then. And that was when I sort of discovered Instagram and the community.
Yeah.
And that kind of really hooked me in because, again, like I said, I'd always done a lot of crafts. But if I'm going to be really honest, probably also always felt a little bit embarrassed about it, or not many of my friends did. So I think in my head, it was still maybe something that like older people did.
Yeah.
And then I discovered Instagram and just hundreds of thousands of other people making modern crochet in a really cool, fun way. And I was like, oh, okay, here are my people. Like, this is the place I want to be. So I think it was really that community element then that like got me properly involved. And from there, that's where I started like doing a bit of blogging and sharing patterns and then creating patterns myself. So yeah, it kind of took a couple of years, I suppose, in a way. But then once I found that community and I was in, it was, I was away.
Yeah. It's such an amazing community, isn't it? And to see the scope of people in that community as well. I know you touched on, feeling like it was an older person's craft. And that's always what I was like when I was younger. I used to love cross stitch.
Yeah.
And people used to call me a grandma because of it.
I feel
It's
like
like,
I shouldn't
ha!
say it, 'cause I feel like it's doing a disservice because I know it's such a stereotype that we all like now
Mhm.
fight against. But I do think it's still quite pervasive for some people and in some areas. And
Mhm.
like I said, you don't necessarily have other friends nearby who do crafts as well. Then you feel like you're the only one doing it, but it's just not the case. Like I said, and that's the really nice thing I think about social media. As much as it can get a bad rap, and I get that, it also
Yeah.
has brought together all these like-minded people that I've met over the years, and some of whom like I consider really good friends now. And it's a bit
Yeah.
weird, like we were just saying, we've never really met in real life, but then also this is real. This is real.
Yeah.
We're connecting in a different way. So I think it's finding those positive connections in amongst what can sometimes be overwhelming on social media. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you started crocheting then, did you have any particular challenges? Any areas that you got stuck with crochet? Like, was there any like big things that you had to overcome with crochet, or did you just find it a bit of a learning process and it came gradually?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this. I think it's a learning process, and it's sometimes difficult to look back on and reflect on, isn't it? Because you are where you are now. But I definitely
Hmm.
remember when I first started, I could only really follow videos, and that was what I found really helpful. And like I said, because I kind of came to it through YouTube, um, I found patterns really difficult. And I remember I downloaded a crochet pattern. It was this really cute teddy bear I think I'd found on Etsy. And I was
Hmm.
looking at this pattern, and it was like a foreign language to me, and I could not get head or tail of it. And I was like, what does the star mean? What does the brackets mean? And I
Yeah.
think possibly the pattern didn't have like the best intro and like abbreviations and stuff. But often also I think sometimes you just have to find a project you really want to make, whether it is in a
Hmm.
video or a pattern or a magazine, and then like Google it as you go, because
Yeah.
information is out there. And then I found a website that explained what a star meant and what the brackets meant, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. And it's that kind of it's hard work when your brain is first getting used to it. So I remember finding reading patterns quite challenging when I wasn't used to them.
Yeah.
But now actually I am so used to it, and my brain can so quickly translate. I find it
Hmm.
harder if I come across a pattern that's written out in words, because it
Yes.
takes longer to sort of process the information.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I think, as I said, just those like learning curves. I think sometimes as well, it's challenging. Maybe, obviously, for so many people, crochet is like amazing for mental health, and it's brilliant for that.
Hmm.
I think it depends on my mood in terms of what I want to work on and what I want to
Yes.
crochet. So sometimes I just want a really easy project that's not going to challenge me, and it's just a repetitive stitch, and
Yeah.
that's what my brain needs, and that's what I like I feel like my soul needs. But sometimes
Yeah.
like a project that would challenge me if it's like a technique I haven't done before.
Hmm.
But I feel like I do need the energy to approach it in that way, and for it to be like a challenge that I'm intending to tackle rather than just like
Yes.
roadblock in the way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I do like a bit of what I call TV crochet, those rhythmic stitches where you can just pick it up and you don't really need to put much thought into it. It's just, you know what you're doing and you just,
Yeah.
yeah, I do like those projects. But you are right. It is nice to every now and again have a project that does challenge you.
Yeah,
And it's, oh, sorry,
yeah, or
go on.
like you see something you want to make. So I think maybe like the first time I made slippers or little booties or something, and it was working sort of in the round in a way I hadn't done before. But then once I'd done that one pattern, every time I then came across that again in other patterns, I'm like, oh, okay, I know what I'm doing here.
Yes.
I remember struggling with that and Googling it and looking for YouTube videos or whatever. So it's quite satisfying then, because you're broadening you can work on wider things, more things.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a challenge, but I guess it's maybe for me, knowing when I'm in the mindset when I want to take on that challenge, or knowing when I just need a bit of TV crochet.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's also a good idea to step back sometimes and look at where you are now compared to where you used to be, because like you say in the beginning, you can almost feel overwhelmed of where to start. And for me, I've found a lot of people, it's their tension, like getting used to how you hold the hook and hold the yarn and getting that tension right. And once you've got that right, then you start layering on those skills, don't you? So, you know, if you're watching or listening, then take a step back and look at your very first project and see how far you've come, because you'd be amazed. I've had people refer to me, and it makes me cringe a little bit. They've referred to me as a crochet guru in the past, and I refuse to take on that term. And the reason why is because I am always learning. There is always something to learn. And to me, the term guru like suggests that you know everything.
Know it all.
Yeah. And you don't. It's
Yeah.
always a learning process. And I think there's always something to learn from somebody else's project, somebody else's design, somebody else's pattern. You might pick something up from here, there, and everywhere and create it into your own style. So yeah, it's forever a learning process, isn't it?
Definitely. The other thing that I think I found challenging, which I don't know if you would relate to this or not, it's almost was finding not my own style in terms of designing. So I feel like now that I do that, I'm quite down with that. But it was almost like finding projects I really, really loved then at the end as well. So often I would see something in a magazine and be like, oh my gosh, amazing. And I would spend hours making it, and then I'd finish it and I'd have this like bright red and orange shawl, and it looked beautiful. But then I realized I just was never going to wear it. And I don't know if it felt deflating, but it felt a little bit like, it wasn't satisfying in a way. So a weird challenge, but it took me a while to kind of hone the type of projects I really enjoy. And then I really now like to make things that I'm going to really want to display in my house straight away or wear straight away. Or I do some gifting, but because it's my job as well, and actually time wise, I'm not really making things to gift. But I know for a lot of people, that is a big thing. So I suppose that's slightly different. But yeah, it was finding things that were really going to light me up, because I'm a little bit of a squirrel and I kind of just get distracted by everything and want to make everything and anything. So it's like focusing on those projects that are really going to bring you joy, and then bring you joy in your home or from wearing them as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It really does. I don't I saw a reel the other day. It was from Emma Nitty, and it was like a point of view reel, and she was like, when you're, I can't remember the words that she used, but she was like basically saying when you like to wear black and you're kind of a bit of a goth at heart, but then you like making all these pretty bright crochet things. And it's like, it's okay to have those two different sides to you. Like, I don't really wear much crochet, and a lot of people expect that I do, but I don't. And like some of the things that I have in my home, I'm very selective with what I put in my home, because it has to be the right type of yarn and the right color. So a lot of the things that I make, I do gift. I love to make like baby blankets and stuff to gift. But it's okay to have those different sides of you. You know, if you like to crochet, you don't have to be, you know, your curtains don't have to be crochet and all of that. And I think a lot of people do expect me to like be full-blown crochet throughout my whole house. But yeah, you're right, you've got to find that thing that lights you up. And for me, that's gifting. For you, it would be something that you love to wear or love to have in your
home. And also just the length of projects. So I see like the most beautiful garments, but then I'll start them and just realize I do not have the attention span to see it through. So like a quick cushion or a basket or something, for me, I find so much more satisfying, because I don't have the patience to work on massive blankets. But I think they look beautiful. But yeah, again, it's finding that, because if you're trying to push yourself through a project that you're just not enjoying anymore, or you do just want to work on something else, just like you said, accepting that that's okay. Like, it's okay to just make quick, bulky projects, and you don't have to have beautiful blankets everywhere in your home to be a crocheter or it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So recently, or maybe not so recently, because I think it's been a while now for you, but you've taken the plunge into full-time. This is your full-time gig. How did you find that process, and how did this community of amazing people help you with that process?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I suppose community just amazing. Like I said, right, for me, from, I don't like to use the word journey, but like the start of my crochet journey really has been through Instagram and social media and connecting with people in that way. And that's partly how a lot of what I'm doing now has come about as well. So my background was in publishing, so in book and magazine publishing, and it was sort of nonfiction. I was actually working in for history publishers for a long time, and then I came to work into craft magazines. And so then from there, I've now gone freelance into crochet design. So I suppose it's kind of come full circle for me in a way. But where my most recent role in publishing, I was working for Molly Makes. So it's like a
Mm-hmm.
really popular craft magazine here in the UK. And I suppose I had a little bit of imposter syndrome in that I was a bit worried that when I went out on my own, the kind of invitations to things or offers of like collaborations might dry up because I was no longer affiliated with that kind of big brand.
Yeah.
That hasn't been the case at all. And I think a large part of that is because of the kind of community and almost inadvertently the kind of network that I built. So I think I was just kind of coming on and chatting to people and sharing things. But actually you do over years, because it has been years, foster quite strong relationships with other people, which have now like then gone on that I've collaborated with or magazines that I've worked with. And yeah, a lot of that I really feel has originated in just kind of chatting on quite a friendly basis originally. So I would say it's definitely supported me in that kind of network way and having links and contacts and friends in the community. And also just as a big support. So I recently launched a book and I also do a crochet subscription box and I publish patterns on my website. So it's quite varied, but all obviously under the crochet umbrella,
Yeah.
similar to yourself. And people are just so supportive. And it's sometimes you tread that line where you feel a little bit like you don't just want to be selling at people
Yeah.
or be like,
Mm-hmm.
buy my new thing or buy my new thing. But again, I think that's a little bit of a mindset thing on my part, because at the end of the day, the people that I'm connected with and who were already following me like what I do and like my style. So it's kind of, that's a little bit of a hang up that, you feel you don't want to just don't take advantage. I don't know what the right word is, but yeah, it's that balance of community, but it's also kind of your marketplace and, your access to your audience through social media. So
Mm-hmm.
the fact then that you can have those conversations with people and the direct feedback, and people will send you a DM or leave you a comment and be like, I love this, like
Yeah.
more of this, or oh, I really like what you did there. It's that direct relationship with your customer that you
Yeah.
haven't had previously, maybe in other industries or in other periods of time, that is so valuable, but also so like heartwarming, because people are so, like you said, so supportive, and you get to chat directly to people who love what you're doing. So
Yeah. It's funny when you say, you don't want to feel like you're always selling and you've got imposter syndrome. These are all things that I hear from so many people. And I think a lot of the time you feel so alone in that, and you think, well, why am I feeling like this? This is silly. But it's a really common thought process of a lot of creatives. And I think it's because we enjoy so much what we're doing. A lot of people think, well, surely I can't be making money from that. Like, it's too easy. I find it fun. Like, making money should be hard. And it's really a thought process that a lot of people need to get out of, because it can be quite a toxic thought process, can't it?
You're right. And also I think perhaps for our kind of culture and generation of women as well, is a little bit of a
Yeah.
like, don't take up space, don't be too pushy. Whereas actually, when you break it down, if I were to look at somebody else's feed who's doing very similar things to me, I wouldn't feel that way. I would think, oh, amazing, like she's written a book,
Yes.
doesn't it look fab? Or like, oh, she's got a new pattern out, like I'm going to go check it out. I think, it's how you talk to people, and it's your language is a big part of that as well. But
Yes.
I definitely recognize that it's a little bit of a, like I said, a mindset thing on my part. But I think that, like you said, about how then valuable has the community been, because you do then have that direct conversation, and people can tell you, I love this, or, oh, it really made my day, or, and I've had messages as well where people have said, I was going through a divorce, and actually your YouTube videos and your vlogs really helped me, because it was like a friend was chatting to me, and it was like a thing. And I was like, wow, because you're connected, but you're also in your house on your own, talking to your camera, or writing on your keyboard. So you don't always know the other person at the other end, and occasionally they just come through, and it just sort of blows your mind a little bit, because you're like, I just feel so thankful that I've been able to have like a positive impact in that way. And I think the people who don't verbalize as well, like I don't approach every person I follow who's like giving me joy in my day and specifically tell them. I think you have to have that kind of belief, or like understanding that is happening. But sometimes with social media, obviously the negatives can feel bigger than the positives, but the positives are definitely there, and they're definitely especially in craft and with what we know, how it impacts people's mental health and everything.
100%. I think, you talked about sometimes you do get those negative things, and like you might get a bit of a troll comment, or somebody says they don't like something, or people can be quite harsh on social media. They write things that they perhaps wouldn't say in real life, and that can be, if you're sensitive, which a lot of people are, you hear that louder than the 10 other nice comments, don't you? So that can be the negative side, but I think the positive far outweighs the negative. There is so many people on Instagram who, we're all doing the same things, really, aren't we? We're selling patterns. There's a lot of books coming out just lately. We do a lot of of things that are similar, and yet we've never felt like we're competing against each other. It's always been a supportive conversation that we've had. I've always tried to, well, I hope you feel like I've always tried to champion you.
I regularly tell people you were genuinely one of the most supportive people in the industry that I have met, but it just in such a genuine way that you're just happy for other people to be in the same arena doing the same thing. Because I agree. And again, maybe it comes back to mindset. And I think probably this happens in lots of other industries and things as well. But social media, like you said, can create that tension, and maybe, it heightens it. I just think there's so many people crafting and crocheting that even if you're doing a very similar thing, you're still reaching people in different ways, and you're reaching
exactly.
And it doesn't. You and I doing similar things doesn't then detract. That just builds. You're bringing people into the craft world that maybe haven't, and the pandemic, for all it was, let's not talk about that too much, but there's so many people craft at that point through videos and whatever, and maybe one day they're on your YouTube learning a stitch, and then a few weeks later they might buy one of my patterns that uses the stitch. And I just think I do genuinely believe we build each other up. And I think
100%.
I think as well, I've seen people get quite upset about copying of patterns, and I totally get that, because it's very disheartening if you've spent a long time on a pattern. Potentially somebody else comes in and is copying. But I also believe that if you're a creative person with original ideas, you will continue to be a creative person with original ideas, and that will grow. And if somebody can only copy, then that's all they can do. Like I feel like it's not worth my energy worrying about that, because it's disheartening and it's upsetting. And I understand, like, if it was happening again and again, unfortunately I've been in that situation, so maybe I would feel differently. But I just think that's a negative energy over there, and let's just focus on growth mindset and positivity, and I genuinely believe that will bring in like positivity and, you know, help you align with creators like yourself who, you know, we do build each other up, and it all adds to the pot rather than detracting from each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, it's like with crochet, and we all see so many projects here, there, and everywhere. It is possible for two people in this huge world to have very similar styles and very similar ideas. I don't know if you've ever read the book Big Magic. In a nutshell, it's all about having this idea come to you, and if you don't act on it, then it will just go to somebody else. So yes, I have seen people, you know, fair enough, if it's a identical pattern, then, you know, there are things to be said about that. I'm
not condoning plagiarism. I do think sometimes these should be taken, but I suppose more from like an energy. You could very easily spend all day worrying and getting caught up in that, when actually
yeah, absolutely. There's only so many stitches in crochet. There's only so many ways to make a granny square. You know, don't let the fact that somebody else has done a granny square blanket stop you from trying to design your own granny square blanket, you know.
And actually, one of the biggest advice I would give if somebody is listening and watching and they are interested in getting into design is, don't look at other crochet designs. So I love looking at other crafts like patchwork and weaving and even interiors, because I create a lot of homeware, kind of cushions and things. So I look at somewhere like Anthropology or Oliver Bonus and be inspired by like their color palette for the season, or, you know, the textures, or whereas I do think it's difficult sometimes if you see somebody else's crochet thing and you love it, it is hard to get it out of your head. So if you find yourself falling into that trap a lot, if you're on Pinterest doing a little bit of an inspiration, you know, trail or whatever, just don't even look at any crochet. Just look to other crafts for inspiration. And yeah, maybe it's the colors or the textures or even a painting. So I do still think there's so much inspiration to be had elsewhere, and then you're protecting yourself because you haven't even been looking. So you have genuinely come to that from an original, you know, point of view.
Yeah, I remember doing it's the spring abstract blanket, and that is a granny square blanket, but that came from a painting. You know, like what you said, I saw like an abstract painting and it was squares, and I was like, oh, that would make a really good granny square blanket. So yeah, you can find inspiration in all these different things, can't you? I mean, even if you see somebody's design and you're like, oh, I like that color, you can take a bit from there, you can take a bit from there. You know, because if you are on Instagram, you are seeing people's designs. But 100% take inspiration from other things as well.
Or like you said, it's that kind of an analysis of like, well, why do I like it? I like the feeling it creates because it makes me feel really calm, and I like the color palette because of that. So maybe you are using a similar color palette, but yeah, like you said, there's a finite amount of stitches and color palettes ultimately. So you just got to be true to yourself. And
yeah.
I really hope you're enjoying this episode of the Yarn Over podcast, but I couldn't wait to jump in and tell you all about the brand new Bella Coco Crochet homeware collection. This stunning textured collection contains the briar blanket, the jasmine cushion, the succulent plant holders, the fern wall hanging, and the elm draft excluder. If you want to find out more about this collection, then head to bellacococrochet.com/the-homeware-collection.
So if you've ever had any negative experiences, then have they knocked you? How have you overcome that, if you have had, you know, that little troll comment or not so nice words sent your way?
A good question. I think I feel like I've been pretty fortunate, and I honestly haven't had much negativity, but yeah, occasionally things will crop up, and I think it's very hard, and it depends on my mood and my mindset at the time when it
Mhm.
happens. I just think as humans we are so prone. I think you said it earlier, like you might get 10 positive comments and then one a bit like and that's the one that you'll like carry around
Mhm.
all day. But I do know I'm quite a sensitive person, so I try and bear that in mind. And actually now that I'm doing this as my job, I think it's kind of helped me in a way, because it allows me to put that kind of like professionalism barrier in the way a little
Yeah.
bit. In the same way, if I was working in the past and someone's a bit grumpy, let's say, on the phone, it upsets you, it annoys you, but it's your job, so it's like, okay, do you know what? Fine. And I honestly think the biggest thing that I try and bear in mind is that kind of, which is again easier to do on some days than others, that like emotional empathy of, normally if somebody's being an idiot, it's because they're having a really bad time and
Yeah.
I'm sorry for them. Like, if somebody's picking me up on the fact that I used the wrong grammar in my post, like I'm more upset for what life is doing to them, that obviously they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
It's not really about me, is what I try. That's what I try
Yeah.
but it's definitely easier some days than others. And
Yeah. That is so true, though. If somebody does have or seems to go off on a tangent for such a small thing, there is obviously something else going on
yeah,
within their own bubble that has caused them to,
yeah,
want to rant. And unfortunately, you've just been their focus, like, focused on you and
yeah,
gone towards it. But I can totally relate to that. Sometimes I can be like, yeah, just water off a duck's
yeah,
back.
yeah,
And then other times you're like, oh my goodness, this is the worst thing to happen to me. And I think one of the things that I've learned is there any truth in what they're saying?
mm,
If there is, then use that to do better next time.
for sure. Like as a learning experience, or like you said, why has that touched a nerve with me? Is it because
Yes.
maybe, yeah, no, you are right. There are probably instances where you there's a learning thing to be had there, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And if there isn't, any truth to it, then just let it
Yeah.
go. I sometimes just take screenshots and send it to my family so we can have a laugh about it. Like, look at this.
I've started taking screenshots, but I've started taking screenshots of really positive reviews and things like
Yes.
that,
Yes.
because I don't know if this sounds a little bit woo to some people. It's not something I would have done 5 years ago at all, but I've recently started keeping like a gratitude bullet journal. So like the end of each day, I try and write down 3 things that like I'm grateful for. Just normally it's just like the sun shone today, or
Yeah.
had this ice cream. But I honestly do think there is a lot about, if you can shape your thinking around the positive things and
Mm-hmm.
focus on those, and by
Mm-hmm.
doing like a practice like that where you're listing 3 grateful things or positive things. I know it can sound a bit like OTT, but I just think it helps reshape your thinking, and then before you know it, actually you're looking for the positives more than you are the negatives. I could very easily sit down and write like 10 negative things each day too, because that's how my mind goes. But you're like, I don't know, then I think your brain then goes quicker to the negative things. So
Yes.
I don't know, maybe I will get better at filtering out negative comments in that way, if I can focus on like the really positive ones as well,
Yeah.
and actually like let them land, because I think that's something I've maybe never been very good at. And again, I don't know if it's like a cultural generational thing for us women, but it is very hard to accept compliments. If somebody says something to you really nice online, sometimes I don't actually like let it land and like really accept it. So it's
Yeah.
practicing to look for those really positive things. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
100%.
harder than it feel like it should be, but yeah.
Yeah, it is difficult, and a lot of people can get themselves into that negative mindset. But once you start getting into the positive mindset, it's like it just continues to build. Like you say, it
Yeah.
gets easier, and then the negative gets less.
Yeah.
I've always been a huge believer in mindset. I don't know if you've ever read the book The Secret. I've spoken about it. You need to read it if you haven't. But it's all about law of attraction, and basically what you think about, you bring into your life.
Yeah.
If you We're kind of going off on a tangent here, but this stuff just lights me up inside. Like you say, if somebody said to you, have a look outside, tell me how many red cars you can see, and then you say to them, okay, now how many blue cars can you see? They're like, well, I wasn't looking for the blue cars, I was looking for the red cars. It's like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many times you've had something in your mind, like you really wanted something, and all of a sudden you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
It's exactly the
I
same.
kind of remember it then when you were saying there's an actual like term in psychology for it. Or even if, say, you learn about something for the first time, or you learn about a new word, and then suddenly you hear people use it like 5 times in a week, and you're like, that's so weird, because no one's ever used that word before in my life before Tuesday, and now everyone's using it. And it's not the case. It's just that once you're aware of something, your brain actually like actively brings it like to the fore more. And so that's in positive and negative ways. But
Yes.
what you're saying about, sharing negative reviews for friends and family, I do also get that, because sometimes it's about removing yourself from the situation, and whether that
Yes.
means a social media break or just like stepping back from it and being like, this is a microcosm of a lot of thoughts and feelings and emotions here on my phone. And actually, I definitely feel sometimes I can feel myself like, I think social media is brilliant, and it's an amazing free marketing tool that creatives can use. It's a great community that people can use to come together, but it has also obviously got its, foibles and problems. And you can feel those times where the more you kind of feed the beast, the bigger it gets. So if your aim is to get more followers or more comments, or you can do that, but then you also kind of like, there's then more to deal with and more to handle. And sometimes just stepping back and spending time with friends and family in real life is also necessary, and just helps you reframe what it is you're doing. And
and it's honoring those feelings as well. Like, your feelings are valid. If you get that sinking feeling in your heart from a comment, that's why I do it. I take a screenshot, I send it off, and then it's done. I then park it and move on, look for the positive. But sometimes it is good to take a step back, even if it's like once a week. You say, right, Sunday, no phones.
How easy is that for you? Because
I was just going to say, I don't practice what I preach.
When you build your business around an online community, and that's, the joy is there as well as the business, that you want to be there with people. How easy is it to step back?
It's not easy, but try and draw that line in the sand and set your boundaries and things. And then just continue to go back on Instagram and use it in the way that you would want it to be used for you. If you like somebody's project, send them a little message, say, wow, this is amazing. If you liked a particular thing that they said, tell them. If you liked their reel, share it. So just continue to use it in the way that you would like it to be used for you.
I totally agree, because there's so much power in that. And I think maybe you enjoy following people, but you don't feel like leaving a comment is really that big a deal. But like we've said, it can genuinely make somebody's day, or like really help them balance out that negative comment that was just before. Or it can have a massive impact, even those little actions.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me what you've got coming up for the rest of this year.
Good question. More of the same patterns and boxes and everything. I've actually just signed 2 more book contracts to write.
Oh my, 2?
Also one has the most ridiculous short deadline ever. So there's a Christmas crochet book, and
for this Christmas. Oh my gosh.
Just very frantically crocheting all the time at the moment, which Like talking about challenges. So my main challenges as a designer and now being self-employed is just time management. It's not the things I thought that were going to be tricky. I think I was trying to explain it to my husband. Like I think it's a positive thing in that I can see potential in anything, like any scrap of paper or fabric or yarn. I can see, I'm like, oh, that could be a thing. But in the same vein, I'm also like, yeah, I can do that. I can fit it in. I can, and then I'm like, no, Lindsey, no, that was, but I'm trying to channel it as a, yay, I get to do this rather than what have I done? So yeah. Well, that's the one book will be out this year, and then the one book I think will be next year, and I haven't actually started on that one yet, so that's fine. So yeah, books, but it's quite nice in a way, having been a commissioning editor and commissioned people to write books, to now be on the
other side.
I feel like I got the benefit of both sides of that. And I feel like that's probably enough. There's always so many other things I would like to do and want to do. And I think I'm just guilty of, I don't have to do it all now. Like, it's okay to spread it out. I've got 3 young kids. So it's just managing that time, because it's not just my own time. And like, you can have the best laid plans, but as soon as somebody gets a sickness bug or chicken pox or anything, and as anybody with kids will know, they never get it at the same time. And then 2 days later or a week later, and then you get it. So it's not even like it's just a couple of days. It's like one bug. They're all out for a good couple of weeks there. So that's the most difficult thing probably, is just managing my time. But it's a very good problem to have. And I feel very fortunate and grateful that I have that problem and that I get to crochet for a job. But I do think there's a perception that if you're a crocheter and you're working full time, you just spend all day crocheting, which isn't normally the case. But when you're madly doing samples for a book, it is currently the case.
I remember I was heavily pregnant at the time, I believe, and I had my book deadline, and I had to, I nearly said what project it was then, but we've not revealed it yet. This book that I've been working on for over 2 years. I just remember frantically crocheting, trying to get this finished for this deadline. I think I watched the whole 2 seasons of what's it called? The Witches, Discovery of Witches, which is amazing, by the way, on another note. But yeah, frantic crochet is a thing.
You start to question, when was I doing this for my mental health, and when has it become a cause of stress? But
it can be a yo-yo, can't it? Relaxing, stressful, especially when you do it for a job. So Lindsey, I think you're amazing. I think all that you do is just brilliant. Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, so my main sort of feed on Instagram is Lottie and Albert, and then I also have a website by the same name, so lottieandalbert.co.uk, and that's where I've got sort of free blog patterns. I've got my sort of digital download patterns, and then any information on other things like my books and my crochet boxes that I do are all in one place there. So yeah, that's my main place I hang out.
Amazing. So everybody go and check out all of her things. But thank you so much for joining me today. It's been wonderful speaking to you. Hopefully we can do it again soon.
A little bit of a therapy session thrown in
there.
We
have, haven't we? We've had all aspects of things in here. But thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.